Farm for Profit Podcast. Take a listen, have a blast. Farm for Profit Podcast. Learn about farming while having a laugh. Farm for Profit Podcast.
And listeners, welcome back to the Farm for Profit Podcast. This is Tanner.
Corey's here too.
We're hanging out with a gentleman from Oregon.
Oregon?
Have we interviewed anybody from Oregon?
I feel like we have.
Really?
What was the onion guy? Who's from out there?
Shay, the onion man?
Idaho.
No, you're right. He's right on the border.
Is
yeah,
he?
I am right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
that
he
takes
is.
all the specialness out of this show, so I guess we can end it. We'll move on and find someone from a different state.
Yeah.
I want to know, are you listeners? Are you from Oregon? Do we have more than 3 listeners in Oregon? Maybe.
That would be cool. If you are listening in Oregon or somewhere out there on the west coast, somewhere up in the northwest region, that'd be cool.
I know you got listeners in Oregon.
Yeah.
Oh, I like this. Well,
Yeah.
now
we
you can
know.
prove it.
We
You
know
know.
we have listeners.
Prove it to us. You can do that by sending an email to farmforprofitllc@gmail.com or hit us up on our socials in the comment section. We appreciate all of that. And if you want Oregon to take over our top listening state, that means you have to share it with your friends.
Yeah, you guys will have to do a little work there.
Yep.
But I'm here for it.
I will take any and all listeners from Oregon. This is going to be, in my opinion, I hope this is a crossover episode. I hope you get to learn a lot about a really cool person, and we leave you with a little bit of value at the end of this, too.
Right. Yeah.
Should we get our guest introduced today?
Sure.
You going to raw dog it?
Oh, you want me to just frickin' go into it?
You think you can?
Let me clear my nose here.
This
Somehow
is
at lunch yesterday, Sherry got me sick.
Sherry. Oh, that's right. We are. Thank you to Steinbauer.
She's like, what?
for hosting us here. Off mic, Sherry in the background. If I go this way, can you see Sherry? You can see Sherry. There you go.
All right.
All right.
Today on the Farm for Fun show, we are at Oochie Goochie Goo, the United States Custom Harvesters event here in Des Moines, Iowa. So we didn't have to go very far, and we got a guy that had to come a long ways from Oregon. He's been hitting the trails. He's a trucker. He's got a lot of social media influence. I've seen him popping up. He got a podcast now too.
Well, I've actually been mostly doing my coaching calls in my podcast studio.
He's a
so-
coach. He's financially driven. Please welcome from Oregon, Mr. Jesse Bounds.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We have a
The
sold out.
show's not open yet.
It's
so don't
sold
worry.
out. Standing room only.
Sitting room.
Oh, these guys are standing.
Oh, they're standing. Yeah.
Stand. Stop watching. Thanks for coming all the way to Iowa.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Appreciate you making this trip only for Farm for Profit and
That's
Farm
right.
for Profit alone.
I just showed up here.
Yep.
The speaking event had nothing to do with it.
Soon to be
Nope.
private jet flying. We heard on the. Is that, yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So you had to fly commercial out here.
Yeah, but we made it.
So did you have where? If you're coming from that direction, there's no way there's a direct flight
Nope.
from Oregon to Des Moines.
No.
Where'd you go? Denver.
Denver.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So
it's
we flew out at 1 and got in 9 o'clock.
Oh, that's still a long afternoon of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
That's us. We're going to head to Denver. We'll probably already have been in Denver for Commodity Classic, but at least we got a direct flight there.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the thing. Yeah, Oregon, we typically have to connect like everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
So if you do end up buying into a private plane, do you have a private airport next to you nearby?
no, we've just got a little. Eugene's about the same size as the airport here.
Okay.
Yep. So we were looking up when we landed, we were like, okay, what's the population? So me and my wife were doing comparisons to other
Okay.
cities but yeah, it's about the same size. Eugene Airport's really similar to the size airport here.
Okay.
Yeah.
What if you could tap into advanced guidance and automation tools without buying a new machine? You can with the Precision Essentials Kit from John Deere. Everything you need to give current machines advanced technology. Learn more at johndeere.com/essentials.
Gotcha.
So it's been fun to watch you on social media, and you approach social media in a lot of different angles because
Yeah, that's why I didn't know where to go with my intro because I've seen you do a lot of different things.
Yeah, there's a lot of different accounts to try to manage. And
Yeah.
that's probably actually been one of the hardest parts of the social media is what do you post and when and what, what page.
Yeah.
When you're got a farming page and a trucking page and your personal page and trying to keep all that content for your audience on each page.
So let's break that all down. What all do you do?
The main business that I'm in is exporting hay. So in Oregon, it's kind of unique to the area where the majority of the grass seed is grown in Oregon for the world, and so that the straw is baled, and then we export that to Korea and Japan.
Really?
So, yeah. So it's not really. I mean, the West Coast is known for exporting hay, but primarily like alfalfa hay.
Okay.
But it's like up in like Ellensburg, Timothy is pretty much only grown really in. I mean, you can grow it in other areas, but that area is known for like Timothy hay.
That's what the guinea pigs like,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Little tiny packages.
And horses and the little mini bales.
Exactly. Yeah.
The cubes.
Yeah, look up on YouTube. There's a
All the
Timothy
mini
Hay
bales.
guinea pig song because we used to have guinea pigs, and my wife used to sing it to me, and it was so annoying.
Oh, there's a song.
Oh yeah, like Timothy Hay. Yeah, that's like
Oh my. Yeah. So the main that's what the main business is. I mean, that's what I started doing was just baling and exporting, and then like probably most of the people here or most of your listeners that you end up farming and then you need trucks,
Yeah.
right? You gotta haul that stuff. So I just kind of ended up needing trucks to move hay.
Yeah, and it's
So-
kind of a specialty thing. I mean, hay you can't really get wet, or
No.
you got to really handle it well. It's got to be in good condition.
Yeah, especially for export, everything has to be dry.
Where,
we can't
where are
have
you
that.
exporting it to?
South Korea and Japan.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so does that go into like a shipping container?
Yeah, we load containers. Yeah, so if you look at the Bounds Hay page, you'll see if you go through it, or even on my YouTube channel, I've got videos of the hay press and stuff. So we put the bales into the press, and then we compress the bales to about 50% of the size, and then load those in the shipping containers.
That's got to be dry, because if anybody knows what happens when you do that, if
Yes,
there's any
it's-
moisture in there, you're
Yeah.
just lighting a fire,
Yeah,
basically.
it's got to be dry. And like we just actually sold my first shipment, so I got a load going to Hawaii, and I'm like, yeah, this shit's gonna have to be really dry,
Yeah.
So
Because of the humidity?
yeah, the humidity.
So if you think you're paying too much for hay now in the United States for your horses or something, I can't imagine. I mean, I know how much like a bushel of corn is worth. We might sell it for $4 or $5
Yeah.
here, and then over in China it might be $10.
So here's what's crazy. We just got the container rate for the Hawaii shipment. It's about $8,000 per container.
Okay.
Oh.
It's $350 from Tacoma, Seattle area to Asia. $8,000 Hawaii.
Why?
I haven't asked you. I mean, I've a long time ago I've gotten rates like to Alaska, and I'll follow up with that. I'm going to ask my freight forwarder more, and there's I've been told, and this is all rumor, I don't know anything about. I've just been told that it's about when you're shipping inside like the United States from port to port, it's way more expensive, but I don't know the why.
That'd be port fees rather than...
Exactly.
Okay.
I think it has to do with the way they have to pay the people that are operating the ship and just things
Right.
like that. So it's just the cost, I guess. So, but I'm going to do some digging on that because when I saw the rate, I was like, holy shit.
So how many
Yeah.
bales can you get in a container?
So we ship about 25 tons. That's the easiest way for me to put
Tons.
it. Yep.
That's fair.
Yeah. So like
25 tons, $8,000 into 25 tons.
yeah.
Boy.
Yeah. The freight was.
That's $400 a ton
Yeah. The freight
just
was
for freight?
Yeah. The freight was like. The hay was going to be like. It was. Yeah. It was. No, it wasn't that much.
I'll do the math.
Do the math.
Yep.
I left my phone over
Come
there.
on, you're a banker. You should just have that in your.
I think, I think it was $120 a ton for the freight.
Which is
think
like,
that's-
is it? I don't
that's
know
right.
hay prices right now, but I feel like people would balk
was-
at that locally. Would
Yeah, it was going to be
So
300.
$320 a ton
Mhm.
in, if it's 8,000, it's $320 a ton in freight.
wow.
Oh.
Now he's going through his head. Maybe we're not making any money on that. No.
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, that's what I told him. I said, hey, the freight, is crazy. Like it's
Yeah.
just So when I got the email, I get a lot of emails and inquiries, probably like most people,
Yeah.
and most of them you delete. That's a big part of it. Is okay. This is like serious.
Yeah.
Right.
And when you go to get the rates, and I was like, told the guy, I was like, dude, like this is crazy. But I guess there's a shortage there or something. I don't know. I'm gonna find out.
Who's brokering that? Are you just putting an ad on like Alibaba
No,
or something, or
No, it
Temu?
came through social media. So the guy said,
Really?
Yep. The guy said, hey, they're in the West Coast. They're from all I know is that they have a ranch there. They live in the Pacific Northwest. That's all
Wow.
I know. And they said there's a wire coming. As I said, you have to prepay.
Okay.
Sure.
Says in Asia, when we ship to Asia, we open up lines of credit, or it's wire transfer. So they can't pick up the shipments until payment clears. Then we release shipping documents. So, I mean, I don't really want to end up with a container there with no buyer.
Sure.
because the shipping contract's in my name.
Yep.
So if they don't pick it up, I'm on the hook.
So go back to, maybe I missed it already. How did you start with the export side of things? How did you learn about, I don't have to sell this to Californians. I can.
Yeah, so when I was 16, I worked on a grass seed farm, just, driving baler and combine. And my boss sold his straw to some hay presses. In our area, there's hay presses around.
Yep.
And so I kind of knew it was a thing. And then I was driving truck so when I worked for him, I started baling like small fields, like 5-acre fields, 10-acre fields, just on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got up to, I don't know, we were probably doing 500 or 1,000 acres or something of hay and straw. And I was selling to the racetracks and dairies and just local domestic stuff, right? And one of my farmers, a guy that I knew, I guess, in our area, came to me and said, hey, do you want to bale my grass seed straw? And so that was kind of my in to baling it. Then I had to get rid of it. So I went to my local John Deere dealership, asked my salesman, hey, what press would buy this? He gave me, hey, go to see this guy. So then I drove up to his place, said, hey, I'm going to have this straw. He was interested in buying it. So I started selling it to other presses.
Right.
So I did that for 10 years, just baled, trucked, stored, sold. And then I was actually driving truck, hauling alfalfa to another press in Washington. So I'm from Oregon. So I'm there and I'm unloading the hay, and we're like rolling tarps and stuff. Me and a friend of mine, he had a dairy farm, so I'd haul with him. And they were taking this old press, and I get this is where TikTok really is great. On Barn Talk, I got torn up about this. They were scrapping the press. They were literally taking it apart and throwing it away. And I'm sitting there rolling my tarps, and I look over and I see them, something's going on, right? So I walk over there and I ask Luke, I said, hey, what are you doing with this thing? He says, we're scrapping it. Well, everybody says, well, you're stupid for paying $70,000 for it. Well, there's more to the story, which I'm going to explain, okay? Yes, they were scrapping it, but there was strappers, there was pumps, there was motors, there was all this other stuff that they were going to keep to put on another press. So there was value there, right? But I said, well, what are you doing? We're taking it out. We're going to put a new machine in. And I said, hey, I'd love to buy this press, but I don't have any money.
No.
That's a problem usually.
Yeah.
Yep.
So a new press at that time was like $1.5 million.
Holy smokes. 70 grand is a steal.
Yeah. So I said, hey, what can we work out? About a week later, the family said, hey, we've got a plan. And so it was, we'll sell you the machine for $70,000. And I said, well, don't have any money. And they said, well, we'll trade you. They said, you haul, and we'll put 50%. So back then the loads were $1,000 what they were paying us. They said, we'll put 50% towards the $70,000, and then we'll pay you the other $500. The other $500 will cover about the driver's wages and the fuel.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So at least and the truck was paid for, and so I had one truck basically haul hay from Christmas Valley, which is where hay's grown out in Oregon, up to where this press was, and in about a year the press was paid for.
Wow.
So that's how I got into it. There was no way I could have bought it. I mean, if and I was thinking about this the other day, if I wouldn't have been driving truck, I would have never been in the exporting business.
Yeah, because you wouldn't have been there.
There's
you
no
wouldn't
way
have
I
seen
could
it
have
happen.
started. There's no way.
Yeah, because if I'd have showed up delivering your hay, I'd have thought nothing of it. I'd have came back and told you, hey, they were torching this thing up.
Yeah.
And you just said, why didn't you?
I had no, like when we picked this thing up, I knew nothing about how they ran. I took 6 shitty pictures with like a disposable camera or something.
Yeah.
And we had these pictures. We moved this press down. When we go to move it, it's all in apple totes. Just wiring and...
So you're putting it back together off of 6 pictures.
Yeah, I have no clue how this thing went together. Then we get it all together, and this guy that knows about presses comes down and says, hey, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. This won't work for straw. It was set up for alfalfa. So, like, there's banders that band the bales. Well, the old ones hung on the top, and the strap has to be tight to the bale or it'll expand. So we put all this shit together, and then we get ready to try to run it, and we start having to take stuff apart, try to modify it. I mean, that was...
So it cost you more than 70 grand.
It was a mess. Anybody that knows me would come over there and go, what the hell are you guys doing? I mean, it was a cobbled up it was just so the reason why I always bring this up is that there's so many guys, and we'll get more into that with the coaching group, but there's so many guys that are young, that are trying to get going. They see the guys that have all the nice shit, and they're like, well, how am I going to get there? Or how did they start, right? And they don't understand. Like, they just think that they don't know the backstory.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they just think that, oh, somebody gave it to them, or,
Yeah.
you know, or whatever. And so I think that there's a lot of guys in my group that you know, we talk about this, and they're like, I just can't get going, or I can't afford the ground rent, or whatever it is. It's the same story.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's in Oregon or I come out here. That story is going to be the same.
Right.
And I think it's really important for guys just to realize that the journey that sometimes you take, and if those guys that are in it right now, that are grinding really, really hard, if they just keep at it and do what they're supposed to do and pay their bills and work with people, and it's like, you don't always have the money.
Yeah.
No, right.
But you just, I mean, there's so many times that we were down there. I told my wife when we used to pull in there into the hay press, you'd open your pickup door and you knew it'd be a good day if you heard it running.
Oh.
But about 80% of the time, it was because we ran 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
So about 80% of the time you'd pull in and you wouldn't hear the pumps running. And you're like, shit, I'm going to be working on this thing all day to get this thing back running.
That sounds like the feed yard.
Yes, it's very similar. So a lot of people have relatable stories of whether it's a feed yard or different type of operations.
You got to pull past the shop in the feed yard, and you just hope nothing's parked out front.
Yeah. And that's when the farm I worked on, we'd come in the morning time, and there was a kind of a grain bin in the middle, in the center, and the shop was on the side. And you'd come in the morning, and all the combines and windrows would be wrapped around the shop, and it's like, shit, we got to fix all this stuff before we get to work.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's how I got into exporting, and then the trucks, we seem to. Truck owners seem to think we just need to keep. It's like dairy. You know, we keep needing to buy more cows or add more trucks, and it's a disease.
I mean, you got into it with the press, and you were selling locally, but you saw the additional revenue opportunities if you could export.
Well, I never really wanted to export. I just couldn't get anybody to buy from me consistently.
Okay.
The industry is really known for not paying their bills, backing out on contracts, which drove me crazy. And I just wanted someone to actually just buy my product and make it disappear.
Right.
I liked baling. I liked trucking. I liked farming. And I don't get to do any of that now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm running a business. I mean, I'm really having to run the business now. You put me on a tractor and a baler and leave me alone, and that's where I'd like to be. Right. It is vacation. Mm-hmm. So really what it was there was two things going on. One, I was selling to racetracks. They were closing.
Yep.
The feed stores that I sold to, all of them pretty much are closed now. So I could see, like, they weren't closed yet, but I just thought, something's going to change here.
Yeah.
And there was, and at that time, the export industry was growing. So it was like, okay, what path do I want to go down? I need to actually basically be in the feed store. If I want to scale feed stores, I'm going to have a bunch of feed stores, which didn't sound like a lot of fun, or get into the exporting. So I decided that I'd get into the exporting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, the volume is, we can move. We were moving, when I got into exporting, we moved like 150 loads a month when I started. So
That still sounds like a lot. That is a lot.
it is a lot. I mean, when you at a feed store, you might sell a couple loads a month.
Sure.
Or a load a week. I mean, the volume that's in exporting is just so much
And that's
more.
why you need the trucks, because that's 5 loads a day.
Yeah. Yep.
So how many are you up to now?
We try to be over 300 a month.
Holy
Yeah,
crap.
depending on logistics and everything, yeah.
And you're not baling year round, so you just got big warehouses?
Yep, huge buildings. Yeah, there's about there's 180,000 square feet of storage at the hay pressing location.
Wow. And just keep filling it.
We just
and
keep
then you
filling
kind
it.
of have different, this is Timothy, this
Yep,
is
we have-
Orchard, or whatever.
Yeah, we have and then we've got a good dozen barns offsite that are probably 50,000 square foot buildings. So it takes a shitload of room. I mean, we if you come to my place and you look at a building, we have a 90,000 square foot building, and sometimes I don't want to walk in there to see how far they're through it.
Yeah.
and honestly, we had to build these 2 curtain van trailers setups. They're doubles, curtain vans. We had to build them just to try to keep the plant full because it rained so much that we couldn't keep the facility full. So when we started to scale, when I went from 150 to 300 loads, we couldn't keep enough product in there. It was a disaster.
So are these all large squares?
3x4s.
Okay.
Yeah.
You say you almost have to, just logistically.
Yeah, we don't hardly do any small bales out there anymore. I mean, there's some retail guys doing 2-tie and 3-tie. A lot of my friends are still doing small
Or rounds.
bales. There's some rounds.
Yeah, but round doesn't ship efficiently.
No,
yeah,
it
it's all
doesn't.
And you
square.
can't compress that.
Yep. Yeah.
And I still remember the interview that we did with that guy that's making 10-foot round bales.
Oh yeah, the big baler.
The
He's
mega-
doing a
mega
lot
bale.
of.
bales?
You better just come out to my baler school in March, and you'll have to check it out.
We should. We should.
So okay, before we get off the hay thing, Timothy, what else?
So most of what we do is grass straw. So we have annual straw, fescue straw, perennial ryegrass, orchard grass, bluegrass, fine fescue. Those are our varieties. Those are the varieties that are really growing.
So
in
when
our
you say
area.
straw,
So they're
Like, is it-
harvesting the grass.
is
seed.
it more bedding then?
Nope.
Because
It's all
I think
for-
of bedding when
No,
I think of
it's
straw.
yeah. It's all for. This is all for feed. So they're mixing it all. So
But
they're taking the bales and they can get protein. Like they don't have a problem getting protein source.
Yeah.
They need fiber. They need roughage. They don't have the
Yeah.
land mass
I
like
was
we
going to say
do.
they probably don't have a problem with moisture or proteins.
So I've always
I
been
need
told
the
though
roughage.
when
They need
I'm doing
roughage.
like grass hay or whatever, like you don't want to wait for it to head out. Like the best time for feed value is before.
Right, but see, we're going for roughage.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
and we're taking the residual, just like you guys got a
Yep.
bunch of probably wheat out here, right?
Well, we
Uh,
got corn
You guys
stalks,
are baling
yeah.
corn stalks and
Yep.
wheat. We're doing the same thing, but the farmers are moving the seed.
Yep.
Okay.
So in Oregon, that's when I start. Oregon's unique because it's the grass seed capital of the world.
Yep.
Okay, all the majority of all your lawn seed that's used in the whole world is grown in Oregon.
Okay.
It's just our climate. Now there's grass seed grown in other regions. When I say that, people are like, "Oh,
Sure.
bullshit! It's here."
Yeah.
There's tons of areas that they grow grass seed, but the majority of it's grown
Right.
supposedly in our area.
Yeah, to say we're part of the corn belt, you guys are part of the grass
Yeah.
lawn.
The lawn.
The
lawn belt.
Yeah,
The
it's a
lawn
big
belt.
lawn. It is. It's a huge. Yeah. So like from Portland, which everybody's heard of
Yeah.
Portland on the news.
Yeah.
So from Portland to about Eugene, ducks. That's
Yeah.
where I live. So there's the ducks and the beavers. They're
Yep.
down by me, and then Portland is from the range is basically from Portland to like Eugene. That's kind of the range of the grass.
There's
seed.
a lot
They
of
just sell a
uh,
bunch of lawnmowers.
There's a shit.
There's a lot of seed corn out there in Oregon though. Seed corn production, right?
Some, but I don't think
Yeah.
nothing like out here.
And research. I know.
Yeah.
I mean, are you all pivot?
So actually, where I'm at, it's mostly all just
Dry land. Yeah.
non-irrigated.
Yeah.
We get so much rain,
Yeah.
so
Probably also good for growing grass.
it's great for growing grass. Yeah,
So, do you sell any of your stuff on Amazon?
nothing.
I just don't. When you said feed stores are going away, I was thinking of my dog food gets shipped to my house.
Yeah,
and I used to buy it from the local feed store.
Yeah, so the majority of everything that we're doing, we're selling to our customers in Asia. They're putting the orders in with us. It's they need to feed. It's no different than a feedlot,
Yeah,
right? They're
right.
dairy. They got to feed every month.
I just wonder if you'd be able to capture. Not that you need. Maybe you don't need more market.
I'm missing a massive opportunity of domestic, and I know that.
Is that
I could-
pelletized?
Like
Yeah,
if
probably.
Corey's
cubes and
daughter wants a
pellets, yeah.
horse
Yeah.
in the worst way.
Shut up.
And we're gonna get her a horse, and he's gonna have to buy hay from you, and it's gonna have to be shipped via
It
the
can
Amazon.
stay at your
van.
house.
That's right.
Nope.
You
It's
got a big
when
yard.
I look at what the prices when I open up a local flyer and I look at what the prices are at these stores, I'm like, I could probably drop this shit. Like,
Yeah.
oh,
Right.
Man, holy smokes.
Could you imagine the Amazon truck
Cool.
showing up there, and he just shoves it in the back of that van trailer?
No, I can't.
Little Amazon hay truck.
Yeah.
Oh, so
There's never been here's the domestic sales, hay sales. Nobody's really cracked the code on making it easy.
Yeah.
right.
The closest they are right now is dry vans with bundles.
Yeah.
So all the guys that are doing the bundle thing and loading dry vans, but it's still a pain in the ass to handle when you got to you want a 53-foot dry van to show up to your house with
No.
bundles. I mean that's
Right.
where we're at. And then the other route is like trying to do the little mini bales. But there's this huge, if you want to order 1 or 2 tons, what do you do?
Yeah.
That's the issue with the domestic.
Yeah. Horse people are the issue.
Horse people.
I had 7 acres of hay in college, and the only time I've ever been stiffed or had a bad check was from a horse.
That's
person.
another reason why so back when I was doing domestic,
Yep.
exactly what Corey's talking about. You'd go NSF. I mean, it wasn't what we have now.
Yep.
Right? It's just different. So
Yeah, and when you're in college, you have $500 in your account just trying to make it through the next weekend of bars, and someone stiffs you $3,000. Like, man, you're down in the dumps.
yeah.
Man.
Yeah. I used to sell before I had the press every weekend. We would sell hay.
Yeah.
So ads were on print, newspaper, print, go to a bar, put a flyer, coffee shop, their local parts warehouse. That's how I sold domestic, okay? And then I would sit there on a Saturday and say, everybody's got to come between 8 and 3, and you sit there and load bales,
Yep.
and hope, and then, hope that the check's clear.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's, I did a lot of that, and just, I realized that if I was going to make a real business out of this, not that you can't out of domestic. You can. There's a massive. There's way more demand U.S. than there is export. I mean, as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just where I'm at, what we're set up to do, and.
Have you ever thought of getting into the grass seed side and being kind of?
Oh, I've hit my head like 3 times. Did that. Yeah.
Just not.
Yeah, I'm paying one of my farmers to farm my stuff again now. It's a lot easier.
Right. Sometimes
he
it's
listened
easier
to
just
your
to focus.
podcast. Thank you, Eric, for
Yeah.
farming all my grass seed ground. It's easier. It's just I just don't have time. We don't have time. We're not. You got to figure out what you're good at. I know what it takes to be a good farmer. I just don't have the time or
the willingness.
I
get it.
I was listening to a podcast the other day, and this billionaire said you can be really good at like 2 things.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could maybe 3, but really like 2.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of us try to do 6.
Oh, that's familiar.
I mean, if you just think of what it takes to be a really good farmer, just that, like just corn and soybeans, or corn, soybeans, cattle, hogs, whatever.
There's 6 things
like
in just
the
that.
hats that you have to wear,
Yeah.
and be good at to be really good. It's tough.
And that's why it's one thing if you've got a family that has maybe one guy's running this operation, one guy's running that. There's the mom's taking care of the office or what, but you can't. At some point you can't spread yourself so thin and be massively successful
for a long time.
For a long time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not sustainable.
You might get lucky when there's good markets.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But
so when you were a kid, you did not grow up on a farm?
no, my dad did construction.
You worked your way into a baling operation.
Yeah, I went to
as a kid.
Yeah, when I was 16, my first job was in my buddy's fab shop, and then he died of cancer, and then I left there before that, but I spent a lot of time with him in the fab shop, and me and him actually built the bed on my first Peterbilt, and I still have that. Like we built it in his shop, and then I went to work on a grass seed farm, and worked there when I was 16.
Right.
And how it was they had a feed store actually at the farm, or they had their farm, and a couple miles away they had a feed store to sell their hay.
Mm-hmm.
And people would call all the time and say, hey, we got like 5 or 10 acres that we want someone to bale, because they would do custom hay.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept hearing the phone ring all the time, and he'd say, I can't do it. So I said, hey, can I do it?
Yep.
And so I actually would use even some of his equipment when I started, and to kind of just help. I didn't have this stuff to do it.
Right.
I mean,
that seems like a common theme of what you've said in the first 20-ish minutes of this conversation is you've built a business, and it's not because things were handed to you. It's not because you had something to start with. Between the opportunity of starting small and baling small parcels, the story you told about the hay press. And I know just from watching your content, your first truck was not pretty when you bought it.
No, it was not. I brought it home, and I took it to a truck show, and everybody said, you're going to take it like that? I said, hell yeah. Fenders were all bashed in and beat up. We spray painted them black, and we put new aluminum wheels and polished it and went. I mean, that's just...
And you still have it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's... I moved it from... My hay presses, it rains a lot, and it was just sitting there like, those old trucks, the water leaks in a little through the lights. And you'd go out there to sell misty. So I took it to Central Oregon to my other house at my farm, and it doesn't rain there. So I parked it over there, and it can weather over there and not get ruined. It was getting pretty... I talked about lack of storage. All my equipment sits out. And it's becoming a problem. My John Deere tractors, there's wiring now issues. Like we're legitimately having issues. Like
you're losing the stuff on the outside.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, it cracks. And
It's like shit doesn't work. And my buddy works on my he's a ex John Deere mechanic, and he's like, dude, you gotta get this shit inside. Like this is becoming an issue. So
well, even our 9520 John Deere 2004, we keep it inside as much as we can, but it's just sat out enough while it's working that the CAN bus wires, the little 2 inches that the loom isn't on is cracking, and then you're just constantly fighting little crap.
So I've got to build. So now I got to figure. The problem is every time you build a barn, you got to make sure that hay fits in it.
Yeah.
But then the problem is the tractors never fit in it because it's always full.
It's always full hay.
So I'm going to try to build one and get it cleaned out first, and then I can get my stuff in it. And problems. But
So somewhere along this way, as you've been building your business, you've found an opportunity to help others build their business.
Yeah. And I'll kind of. This is, I guess, an important piece to this that we didn't talk about was, so I built that business in 2012 I started exporting, so like a decade domestic, sold to other people. From 2012 to from 12 to like 20, I pressed with my piece of crap old press, and then I was able to finally convince my bank to loan me a couple $1 million to put a new press in. We actually had a fire in 16 and the facility burned. So 16 and 17 we rebuilt before we could try to get the press in. But you know how banking works. They said, wait, you've kind of been out of business for the last year or two. We were going to loan you that money, but you need to get kind of back operating. And I'm like, well, it's been a little rough. So there was 3 or 4 years in there that we didn't press for 6 or 8 months when we had the fire.
Wow.
So there was a lot of rebuilding the business, trying to get back running. And then so I've learned a lot unfortunately, about insurance, total loss claims, loss of income policies.
Right.
Just all kinds of fun stuff that nobody really should have to hopefully deal with.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then in 19 we put the press in and we doubled our revenue. But when we did that, we started losing about $250,000 a month.
Doubled your revenue, but started losing $250,000 a month.
Yeah. So we went from about $1 million a month to $2 million. But my aging AP was just growing.
Okay.
And I was like, wait.
Getting behind.
Hold on. We're doing more volume, but we're getting farther behind on our bills. So my bank said, you probably need to figure this out.
Well, at least they said that.
Yeah, I kept, we need to increase our line of credit. So they did a time or two. And then, no more. So I went and found a CFO, found 2 or 3 shitty ones along the way that didn't know anything. Finally found a good one. He started to switch me to accrual. I didn't know what accrual was. He just did it. We didn't have the conversation. He just did it and then provided me some financial statements and said, you have a major problem.
Which is the way to track.
And
when you can go season by season, crop by crop, rather than just a fiscal year.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, he went back and kind of redid the last couple years, cleaned up some stuff, came back and said, why don't you go do inventory, go do inventory. And so then we did that. He didn't really give me anything until about March. So we kind of started, I hired him I think it was in January. At about March, he started dropping those financials, those accrual, nice. Yep. The bottom line was not good. So he said you basically have 6 months until you're really
insolvent.
Screwed. Yeah.
Default.
Oh, I was already.
He was already in default.
It's already in default.
It's just insolvent. When you get to a point where
it's not recoverable.
You literally have.
So what was the problem?
Super inefficient. Too many people. Cost of goods way too high. So overpaying for product, chasing the volume game. So no different than a guy that's overpaying for acreage.
Yeah.
Right. Doesn't know what your true. You've got your top. You know this, but you got your top line revenue and all your expenses, and when you're not lining all that stuff up in a period, you really don't know because you're just running on cash flow.
Right.
right? And you can get, I tell my group, you can get by for 6 or 8 months. You start slow paying your bills a little bit. Guys start taking prepayments, deposits, so you start contractors are the worst at it.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to come work on your house. Can you give me a deposit? They don't go buy shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And they don't close it. They don't know actually how much they spent on your house. They just know if they go get another job and another deposit from Joe and John, that they can just keep this thing going until they actually got to line it all up. They're broke. And so what you're doing, and for most guys that don't know what we're talking about, is you're lining up a period, right? You're lining up those income and expenses each month. And so when we started doing that, right, and he's like, hey, we need to switch this thing to accrual. We need you to do inventory. Our inventory adjustment was off. He calls me up one month and says, hey, is it hard to steal hay or straw? I go, what do you mean? Because he was completely removed. He was not on site. And he said, there's $500,000 worth of hay and straw missing. I said, what do you mean it's missing? He goes, well, it's not accounted for, so it's a loss. So our process of trying to collect data for inventory is the hardest thing still for us. Making sure that they're counting every stack, every bale the same way, because if they overcount, we know it's wrong because we know it went out and we know it came in. We know what our loss is, right? So all of a sudden, if shit shows up, he's like, oh somebody double counted, right? Or all of a sudden, we know it's the other way is we're missing 300 tons or 500 tons, and even to him, he's like, why can't you guys get this tighter? And I said, when you take this is the locations. Okay, and you're a little here and a little here and a little here and a little here. Next time you know, it's a big number.
Yeah.
Hello, farmers. Harvest waits for no one, and neither should you. Sukup Manufacturing has grain storage, drying, and handling equipment you need now to be ready when it counts.
Whether you're upgrading your bins, adding a dryer, or improving efficiency, place your order today and still get it in time for this harvest.
Trust Sukup, a family-owned company built by farmers for farmers.
Visit Sukup.com or contact your local dealer to get started today. Sukup, store now, profit later.
It's massive. So
instead of a 13 bale stack that's getting counted as a 14 bale stack, I'm making it up just for simple. It's 14 high, 13 high.
And it's what's behind it. Well, when we mapped or we put it in there, we thought it was fescue, and then it's annual because some guy didn't mark it right, or there's all that little stuff. So that inventory process for us has probably been the hardest part to still get right. And I know it's not just, I know other industries that fight it as well. I mean, my fuel company, they have issues when they go to count warehouses and oil and it's all messed up, and somebody else has got to go count it. Les Schwab, out our way, we have Les Schwab stores, and a guy that worked for me was telling me that there was actually a store that the guys were doing fraud in where they were, one guy would count it, right? And then they'd move the tires to a different warehouse because they were getting paid off of profits, right? So they actually had to go in there and put in one guy's got to count it 1 month, or I think 2 people have to count it.
Right.
The process has changed probably by now.
Right.
But it was 2 people got to count it, then the next month somebody else has got to count it because you got to cross-reference that because you don't want to rely on just one person all the time.
I'm a novice to this, but in grain farming we have yield monitors, right? So at least we have if everything's close, we kind of know what came off the field within a certain percent. Is there a yield? I mean, obviously you know how many bales you spit out.
So we have to weigh it. We track it. So the problem with and I'll just take it grain monitors are like coffee shop talk in my opinion.
Yep.
This is what it did. Where's the weight tickets?
Right.
Okay, that plane I was talking to you about before we got on here.
Right.
They said, this is what about it cost to fly it. I said, I want to see the financial statements from the last 3 years.
Yeah.
That's what, that means nothing, right? Same with a banker.
So
right?
they
want to
same thing. You have a bale counter, and you may
Yeah,
spit 2,000
that doesn't
bales
mean
out,
shit.
but it doesn't mean every bale is 2,000 pounds.
But what we try to do, at least on our farm, is, we have a scale on the grain cart that was certified.
Yep.
So we're checking the combine in each hybrid, each field. And then we also send a certain amount of trucks to town, and we're getting a certified weighed. We're within 1%. We're within 0.5%.
Yeah. So, and we have to do the same thing, Corey, with our off-site storage, because we don't have. So we have all these barns I told you that are all remote.
Yep.
This location here, everything's weighed going in. Okay. These we have to use estimates. We do the same thing you're doing. When we bale it. So we're actually building a program right now, our own program, but we basically have where we pin drop everything to a map. We're integrating in that app those weight tickets. Right now we do a manual ticket. It'll be digital. But then we'll pull the average weights for that product for that year. And then right now we manually do that. So we account for what's in this barn based off that year average of product. But then we have to reconcile it.
Yep.
When all those barns are empty, at the end of the year, though, all of this gets weighed and then it's cleared out.
Does it ever get empty?
Most of the time, yeah, we run out.
It's a good year.
That's a good.
Yeah, we
okay.
run out. We like to see the back of the barns every once in a
Okay.
while. Yeah.
And then you're like, dang, I wish we did more.
Yeah, and that's a hard. Well, and that's a hard. So we want to be out, but our customers, if we run out, they can't feed.
And then they find someone else, or
It is no,
yeah.
it's an issue. So it's hard because we're trying to time that just right that we have enough, but we want to get cleaned out because we have new crop coming.
I even know too on the feed yard side of things, you go from those bales from last year that you're just trying to get by to that first crop that you baled this year, and you even got to be careful too because of the cattle are getting used to that degrading quality, and all of a sudden it's fresh.
How does that work? Are you so I'm assuming the grass seed guys are the ones renting the ground or owning the ground.
Yep.
That's the primary crop.
Yep.
Are you coming in and subleasing or sub-renting?
Yeah, we pay them for it. We pay them for the straw.
Okay.
It's Straw Wars.
Yeah, Straw Wars.
It's Straw Wars.
Well,
yeah.
there's a new TV show.
Yeah. It's it's every area has that, right?
Yeah.
And when I went to Central Oregon to farm, I can't remember what they called it, but it was in the springtime. Everybody had to what the water bills do.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody's fighting over ground and upraise and rent before water gets paid. Because
Yep.
once water's paid, you're kind of locked in with our water district.
Okay.
So it's always March Madness. That's what it is. April. They called it March Madness because April. I think the water's due by April, so everybody's running around trying to steal everybody's ground in March.
Oh, jeez.
That's wild.
Sounds like a John at Stable
So that
Farms thing.
it does. So that's kind of how your eyes were open to the business side of things. Is you went through a tough time yourself.
Yeah, when your bank says you got 6 months to make 1.2 million net, or that's over with.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when it's like, so you lose $250,000 a month for 6 months, and now it's like, okay, now how do I get this back?
Right.
And I ended up in the hospital for a week over the deal.
Stress.
Called a bankruptcy attorney. Realized that wasn't a good route. Did not sound good.
No.
There's no easy way out of that deal.
So what was it, like heart related or?
Just they thought I had meningitis.
Oh.
They don't know. They did CT. They did everything there was to do.
Bankruptcy-itis.
That's what it's called, bankruptcy-itis. Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty. I've never been in the hospital, but I can tell you I know why people die there because you want to get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a turning point. You're sitting here talking to us today. You're still running the hay company. You still have a trucking business.
Yeah.
So you got yourself out of it.
Oh yeah, and it's in the last 2 years has been almost back where we were.
That's,
I mean, it's
great.
Yeah, it's been almost. We've seen the last. I mean, 20. So 22 was a great year. So that was I think that was 21 shit show. 22 best year I've ever had in my life. 23 back to 23 was actually one of the worst years I've ever seen. 23 was worse than before 22, 21, because what happened in commodities. So I don't know about what out here, but with alfalfa hay especially, and that's where I took my hit. Was we used to export about 30,000 tons of alfalfa. What happened during COVID? China really grew big on alfalfa. The Chinese market grew massively for importing alfalfa.
Mm-hmm.
Right as we were coming out of COVID, it collapsed.
Is that the market that it follows?
Yes.
Okay.
And on top, and at the same time, the dairy stopped really buying because the dairy, beef guys. I mean, the whole thing just fell apart because, forage was so expensive. Alfalfa hay that we paid $380 a ton for was worth $180. So, because I'm running on true GAAP financials, end of the year came.
Now you know
how my CFO says how many tons are left. Well, there's this many tons, or what's it worth? And we had to write it down. And so, of course, my bank saw that and just about flipped out. And I said, well, we can either write it down now, or I can be like all your other accounts, and we'll just not talk about it. Yeah. And we'll average it out over the next 5 years. So a big portion of that was writing that down, which, once again, if you have a CFO and you have a good one, it's good. It's black or white. It's good, and it's either really good or it's really bad or it's just okay. But it is what it is. They keep it, and I think that's most. A lot of people don't want to see the numbers. I can remember not wanting to put all my AP in.
Yeah.
Most people don't want to put all their accounts payable in because they don't want to know how much money they owe people.
Yep.
So let's just put it over
Yeah.
here.
It's not due yet. I want to put it in there.
That was one of the hardest things for me. I hired a controller to come in when we were going through that stuff, and the first thing he said is, "Where's all the AP?"
You said it's hidden.
That's here, and we
It's in
had
my head.
80% of it. What was in my head was all the all the so what wasn't in was the farmer payables. All of our normal bills was in. Okay.
Yep.
That was an issue, but it was all the stuff we owed people, right? And it's all those, and so getting all of that in, and then having to look at that every week and looking at the bills every week. I mean, that was that self-discipline. This is the boring shit that nobody wants to do, but
Right.
but it's the only way that you can do it. I mean, I have people friends of mine that have came to some of the events. They call me personally 2 years later, and they still are. They're like, I mean, they're looking at bankruptcy, and I'm like, I tried telling you guys 2 years ago. You needed to do it 2 years ago, and they're just kind of like kicked the can down the road, and now it didn't go away.
Yeah.
They didn't fix the operations. When you're looking at those financials every month, you see how the operation's running. You see your labor cost.
Sure.
For me, it's especially because, I mean, a lot of farmers will listen and say, "Well, I'm seasonal." Well, what did it really cost you to harvest? Do you think you're more efficient? Did your labor costs go down? Were you able to curve that? Did that new combine actually save you money?
No, they probably made you feel good.
Right? And there's a lot of variables that go into that
Right.
because you have good years and bad years, right? You have like we had 2 years ago, we had the lightest straw crop I'd ever seen. But I immediately knew how bad it was going to hurt me because I knew what my cost was to bale. I knew how many tons I was going to be off. So I knew way ahead of time, shit,
was
this is
not
going to be
gonna be
ugly.
good.
Yeah.
This is going to kill me for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
But was
you know it, then you can start taking some.
That's what you do is
Yeah.
you don't buy this
I
shit.
was
You
gonna
do this,
say,
you do that.
Was it more freeing knowing?
Absolutely, because you can adjust. When you're losing 150 grand a month, but you know that in 6 months it's probably going to get better because of this, and this, and you can make 250,000 a month or whatever it is. That's how a dairy looks at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
How
helps
many
you make-
times do you hear milk prices this, and dairyman's
Yeah.
still feeding the cows because
Yeah.
he knows that when it goes the other way,
Right.
he's going to print money.
Yep.
Yeah.
That helps them not make a stupid decision.
Yeah.
in that
Now
time frame that
the
puts them in
secret
hole.
the secret to that is when you're making money, you don't go spend it
Well,
all, which is what we all unfortunately
Yeah.
seem
That's
to
the
do.
fun part, though.
You do got to treat
Finally
yourself
got
a
it.
little bit.
Yeah, finally got it. I get to reward myself. I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
So to kind of bring the last portion of this episode all together, your coaching, you've set up a curriculum, a group, a membership that's
Yeah.
allowing you to do that. So can you kind of tease our listeners, give our listeners a little value at the end of this show as to, if we're talking, how do I, we get this question a lot, how do I get to grow my farm? What are the best ways I can grow my custom harvesting business? We get that question a lot because I think there's some maybe blind spots that growth means more profit. But that's the question you get is, how did you grow your business? How did I start from nothing, get to where I want to be? Is that what you cover?
Mostly what we're covering is the financial side, honestly.
Yeah.
So to grow, obviously we need more acres, more revenue, more sales, more combines, all that stuff. Of course, we just talked about the finance piece. You have to know your numbers. I've been told most of the people that are coming to this don't use QuickBooks, don't have an accounting. That's why I'm here. I don't know. I'm going to find out later today. That's what they told me. You have to have something like QuickBooks. You have to have some sort of financials, okay? So we spend a lot of time in finance. I do finance events. People. You want to grow your farm, you got to have people, right? I looked into H2A labor in my area. It wasn't going to work. There's people that do it. It's way too expensive. We've been able to use other ways of finding people and employment. We run ads, but we run targeted ads.
Mm-hmm.
We run them through automation to get rid of all of the people. So I'll give you an example. I'm going to geo-fence the colleges this summer.
Yep.
I run those. This is HVAC does this.
Yep.
So I went and learned from other industries what they do in other industries, and I try to bring that back to ours. So we do that with our truck drivers. So we help trucking companies get drivers. So we started running ads, we run them through automation, and we filter those leads. Because when you go out, if you're going to scale your business, I just added 4 trucks. I had 7 parked. I had to hire 11 drivers in my area on a really shitty haul that's not fun. They're not regional, so these guys needed to live within 30 miles of my area. It's a highly competitive area. There's a lot of fuel tankers. They're paying $150,000 a year. I'm FedEx. There's all these companies, and I'm saying you're going to go to the port and you're going to sit there, and you're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. That's not a very good way to approach a truck driver.
Yep.
Okay. So how did I find them? I found them by running ads and running them through automation. And people go, "What won't work in my area?" It's worked everywhere we've tried it.
Right.
So if you're going to grow and scale, you got to have your numbers.
Yep.
You got to have people. Systems and processes. Never had any. Employee handbooks. All the boring shit.
Yeah.
That's what we go over.
That's something we're battling right now at Farm for Profit, because we're kind of the same story as you. Is we started from nothing, and everything that we have is either self-taught or mentor-driven. And as far as that goes, now we got a team of 10.
SOPs.
And
I hate that. I don't even like to say the word. I had to build an SOP the other day.
Yeah.
Okay, I hate use. We still hand teach our drivers. Okay, like
Yep.
we have guys. We have trainers that go with them. Okay, I'm looking at. We run E-roads on our trucks. So I'm looking there and violation. We run a personal conveyance on a lot of shit. There shouldn't be any violations.
Yep.
They were going in and doing their pre and post trip on driving. We've told them you got to be on personal conveyance. The minute you go there, the clock starts, it goes out, right? It doesn't work. So I had to sit down and make a 10-page. I took my phone, I went out to the truck, I took the pictures,
Yeah.
I went back. We have a template that I've shared with the group on how we make SOPs. We've done if you go on YouTube right now, there's a YouTube video on how to use E-roads.
Yep.
We've shown them. I made an SOP. I said put it on every one of their seats. Guess what? There hasn't been any more violations. I didn't even know what an SEP was. I never worked anywhere.
Yeah.
The farm I worked on, I didn't. If you told me to go build an SOP, I'm like, I've never even read one.
Yeah.
Yep.
So how does a guy that's farming even know what one looks like? I never even knew
Yeah.
what one was, right? So I share like last week. So I have a private Facebook group for the 10-4 group. Guys are in there. It's just nonstop. They're in there. I pulled Torque even in there and said, hey, go in there and have fun with these guys. But there's a couple hundred people in there, and they're in there all day long. Mindset and fitness. When I have a guy that comes and speaks at my events. He's a personal coach. When you're farming and you're losing money, or it's tough, it's really hard to keep your mindset straight, okay? And what happens, and me and Torque talked about this, what happens is you start eating like shit, right? Drinking a little too much, and it all goes to shit in a hurry on you.
Yep.
And so a big portion of this, and I would bet that almost half of the guys in that group have lost weight or have been into Sean's fitness program. It's been pretty crazy. So it
is wild to think about, and we've taken that seriously with our audience. We've got an episode that's already been put out about building resiliency.
Yep.
That we can
It's actually
realize.
out next week.
Well, the show airs.
Yeah.
the show
You
airs.
suck at this.
The share. Oh, it's gonna air later.
That show is already out.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got others that are planned along the
Yeah.
ideas of what does it take during tight times to deal with stress to not make it a physical issue. Because if you're dealing with a physical issue on top of a mental issue, on top of a financial issue, you just can't get there. I mean, I talked to you before we even started recording about how we set up our equipment. I haven't done it because it's not that I don't know how. It's not a fun process, but I need to build a standard operating procedures to where someone could set that equipment up and put it away, and me not be frustrated.
What did I
with
tell
it.
you about my studio?
Yeah.
It's all messed up, and we have an SOP. The guy that put my studio in, he built me an SOP.
Oh, that's handy.
Okay, but there's some stuff going on that's not in it, and that's the one thing about building SOP. You build it, and then you got to revise it, and you build it and you revise it. And I'll tell you that, like videos, I was like big on this. Let's do videos on everything. The issue is whenever you change, you always change a process. I found we're always improving our processes. Reshooting videos to update that process is kind of a pain. Updating a form is a hell of a lot easier in Google Drive, and then reprinting it. It's more antiquated, but then maybe once a year you update your video.
Yep.
But you start writing SOPs and you start realizing real quick that, do the peanut butter and jelly shit. Have you ever done that?
No.
So my wife made us all one time do it in one of our meetings. We have a weekly meeting we have in our office, and we did do an SOP on how to make a peanut butter and jelly. Do it you have to do it. Look it up. You have to do it. It'd be kind of fun.
That'd be good.
You find out how many different ways there is to make a peanut butter and jelly?
I mean,
And you can't. The thing is you can't go forward if someone. So you write it for. We would all write them for someone else, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And then whoever gets it done. So if you complete it and mine was the SOP, I win,
Yeah.
right? Because what happens is they forget everybody basically forgets a step, and then you can't complete the process.
The biggest key is, do you put the jelly or the peanut butter on first, and why?
Hey, this I'm going to tell you. This is for
This is
everybody
big
needs to
time
try
stuff.
this.
Yeah. Does the jelly go on the top or the bottom?
What is it?
I'm not. You guys are going to have to do this. I'm not letting anything out. This is you guys. I'm telling you.
We should do this.
Where do
as
you
a group.
start? Hey, where do you start at? Because
I lay out
because
two.
but are
Gotta
they
get the
here?
bread.
Where do we got to go get them from?
Get the bread out of the cupboard
Who's covered?
Where?
in my kitchen,
So
in
I-
a kitchen, whatever
I
kitchen.
gotta go
you're
to
in.
your house.
Whatever. Let's
How
start
do we
where
get
the
there?
bread is, right? Everyone knows where the bread is.
Do they?
They should.
We saw a T-shirt.
If I have to write a standard operating
So
procedure to
at
tell you
lunch
where
or-
the
hey,
bread is,
I think at lunch are we doing? Are we going to be making
Maybe
peanut
we're
butter?
just- We're all gonna be starving.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think if I do the peanut butter or jelly first. I think I do the peanut butter first.
So that's there you go. Now you know.
That's funny. I do the peanut butter first because I feel like I can wipe the knife
can
back
clean
on
it
the
better.
lid of the jar.
And you can wipe it on the next piece of bread,
Oh yeah.
right? And then
could
you
do
can
that
go
with
into
the
the jelly
too.
and not get peanut butter in the jelly.
Which way do you cut it?
Why would you cut
You
it?
have to cut it.
Which way?
You don't have to.
There's two different ways.
No, I don't cut it.
So you either
Just eat
don't
it.
cut it, and you.
Cut to preference.
I used to fold it. I used to fold it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
now you had
If
a
your mommy
double-decker.
cut your bread for you, then you can cut it.
And
However she
me
did.
and my wife, and a sandwich always tastes better too if someone else makes it.
That's
Why
fair.
is that?
That is true.
It's always.
Fair. Have you seen the TikToks where the wife's mad at the husband and like she doesn't take the wrapper off the cheese?
No.
Just puts the cheese
Oh,
in
just
there.
puts
with
it
a
in
little-
the
Put little
Put
piece.
in the sandwich.
Yep.
Okay.
And then that's how he knows that she's not happy is bite in there and you ate the paper or the plastic.
You have coffee too?
So we actually just had to close the coffee shop.
Really?
Yeah, this is something that everybody needs. My landlord called me up about day before Christmas and said we're selling the property
Oh.
and you can't afford it.
Oh. Don't tell me what to do.
So
We've had a couple of those conversations.
yeah. So it's the thing about it is I didn't have the coaching group either when I opened that. In the coaching group, I really didn't think it'd take off like it did either. I mean, that's the thing about when you open businesses, you don't know how they're going to, you just don't know how they're, like your deal. Look at you, we were talking, you started before COVID, right?
Yep.
You had COVID came, things changed. You had an event you were telling me about.
Yep.
And so things just happen and your plans change. And, I didn't expect, this family actually is pretty. They own a dairy, they own 50 grocery stores. It's pretty impressive, and they don't sell land. So when I rented it, there's been a coffee shop there forever. Okay, when I rented it, I actually asked them if they would buy it, and they said we don't sell land. You know that. And so I never in a million years thought they would ever sell it. Okay, and then he called me up and he said, "You wouldn't believe this. We got an offer on this property that we can't refuse, and you can't afford it." And I said, "You gotta do what you gotta do."
Yep.
So that's.
Do you think you'll
business.
fire it back up?
I don't know. The coaching thing has so much potential, and I really enjoy doing it.
Yep.
And so it's one of those things where, you talk a lot about passion and where's your passion, and I'm more passionate about that than the coffee. And it's more vertically integrated into the we talk about what can you be good at. Can I be really good at three things? No.
Yeah.
So I've got already the hay in the hay, and it's already a hay, trucking, baling already. Okay. And there's really export and domestic sales. And there's a lot. There's like 5 or 6 things over here that I'm really not that great at already. And then you've got the coaching group. So those 2 are probably really all I can be good at. And then you start dabbling in some real estate. Now that's a whole other project.
So your coaching group is for all kinds of people? Is it just for farmers?
Nope,
Is
we have it. I've got guys that have stump grinding businesses, car dealerships, sell trailers, concrete, construction, logging. Primarily the group is made up of truckers and I would say farmers. That would probably be 50%. But then there's There's 5% that aren't even, they're working for someone wanting to do their own thing. They might want to buy a truck. Some of them don't even know what they want to do.
Yeah.
Some of them
Sure.
they're like, I'm going to
Try to
open
discover.
an equipment rental deal. One of the guys in my group recycles appliances. Has 2 or 3 trucks, or more, I don't know, but at least 2 or 3 trucks, and he picks up appliances from like Walmart and Lowe's, and then he recycles them. He has storefronts, so they take them, they refurbish them, they scrap them. So it's. But when he got in the group, he started realizing, he goes, shit, my cost to truck. He says, I'm going to go buy it. He bought a brand new excavator and just started smashing the appliances because he's like, it's like your hay.
Yeah.
And I was talking about this on podcast theory. Some of the shit that's right in front of you don't see until you get around other people. You just keep doing it the same way.
Yeah.
You were always doing it, right? And that's the big part about a group or a community, is that you get little bits and pieces of what other people are doing, and then you can take it. It might not be the same industry,
Yep.
right? Just like when I went to an HVAC event, and they're sitting there telling me they're geofencing their competitors' locations and running ads to steal their employees, and I'm like, that's smart as shit. But would I learn that at a farming show?
No.
Probably not. But
I mean, if you talk to Dave, you
Dave,
would.
yeah, if Dave was here, you would.
But he learned that at an auctioneer convention.
see, that's the
Digital
thing.
Media
And then
Summit.
he brought it in. So that's what I'm doing, is I try to get whatever I can from any people. And so when I get speakers that come, they're typically not for, a lot of times not from ag. I have a friend of mine that comes and that's from HVAC that speaks and talks about systems and processes and training. You know, it blows me away how much training they do.
Yeah.
Training techs, all of this stuff, and I'm sitting there going, man,
People think a lot of times they don't have time to train.
that's how I've always been. Till you end up with a wreck every summer, a fire every summer, and you start realizing that's how you make money. How you make money is by not having a bunch of screw-ups.
Yeah.
When you have fires and insurance claims,
Right.
a couple of years ago, my insurance was almost $1 million a year. So when you can get that cut in half, you just made $500,000.
That's true.
So a lot of what I talk about is, you talked about revenue. I'm doing the least amount of revenue right now, the highest amount of profitability. That has been...
it's kind of where our farmers are sitting this
Yeah.
year. Might be some of the least amount of revenue they've done, and hopefully through this podcast, we're helping them make the highest level of profitability.
Yeah, they want, what you need to do is you have to establish your break even. You have to know you have to know your break even, and then you need to find, you've got to dial in some KPIs. So whether it's your, like for us, it's our labor cost. In the trucking, what am I looking at? Repairs and maintenance, I'm looking at my fuel cost. Those are my 2 driving KPIs, and revenue.
Yep.
Okay? In the hay company, I'm looking at, you said, why was I losing money? Cost of product. If I start to get to like over 40% of my cost of goods, I can't make money. It's impossible for me to make money. I can't press my way out of it. A dairy's the same way. If their inputs are too high, of course, if milk's $35, something like that, there's a point there where they have those data points that they need to stay in, and when they start to get, when milk drops, when milk drops to a certain point, depending on where they're at, they know they can't cut everything out, right? And that's what, I would say my advice to anybody is knowing your break even. When you make a change, whether it's annually, right? So like on our farm, our baling, we don't look at it we look at annually, right? What did it cost me to bale last summer? But I got to have the weight tickets,
Yeah.
right? I don't go off the yield monitor. I can't go off the monitor, right? I go off of all of the bales that were scaled and weighed, accounted for, and we account for them in the summer.
Yeah.
So and how we do it is we have our integrated pin drop map, so we know how many bales we baled, right? Not what came off the monitor. So that's a big portion, is having the data. Then they can start back into those numbers and see if they're trending the right way. Then you know if you're making money. And if you're not making money, you know how long you got.
Right. You can get your runway.
You got runway. Yeah, that's what you need. And the thing is, the bank everybody that's probably listening to this has probably working with a banker. You need to be able to be the driving force in that conversation. I always relied on my banker to do my financials for me.
Yep.
Right? So your goal, I know most of them can't do it. Their goal needs to be that I was listening to a podcast, the guy was worth $8 billion, and he said, your financial statements basically are just a reflection of what you already should know.
Yeah.
you have a pretty good idea.
Combine clinics
Oh,
are starting
right.
now.
I looked at ours in the middle of last year and went, well, this isn't accurate. And I neglected them for a couple of months.
I would say farmers are some of the best because a lot of them don't have the
Right.
financial side. They just have a really good feeling of where they're at.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And having
Absolutely.
a good if you don't need to borrow money, and that's working for you, I guess you're not. There's no reason to change. But for me, I've needed to borrow money. I've had to. If I'm going to grow, if I'm going to scale my business, I'm going to need a line of credit. So I'm going to need financials. And then I need to know if I'm making money. I'm going to need people if I'm going to grow. So how do we get people? How do we train them? Systems and processes, SOP, hiring procedures. I didn't have any of this stuff. Time off requests. We would go into December. So December is one of our busiest months for exporting. All my guys would just take vacations. We didn't have a process on. Did it roll
no one
over?
works
Did it
in
get
December.
kept? And I'm like, where's all my truck drivers? And they're like, oh, they went to Mexico. They went here. They went there. They all went on vacation because they need to use their time. I said, this is bullshit. We got to change this. I need all these drivers in December.
Yeah.
Harvest would come the same way. We'd hire new drivers in the spring. Hey, we're farm. You can't take time off. Now we have a blackout period. So because when I started to grow, I didn't have any process, and so I didn't have the people to actually do the work, or they were on vacation. So they were taking a cruise.
That's right. Farm cruise.
They're taking a cruise.
Tell them take some hay with them and
Yeah.
take it over to.
Yeah, just
right.
load it on
Korea.
the boat.
Yeah.
Make some sandwiches on your way. But so and then marketing. I mean, I'm running ads. I started running. So I started running ads, and do you guys use a CRM?
Yes.
So
Yep.
I'm running hay ads. In my area, and I'm running them into a CRM, and I'm just starting to build some automation out for them, and so stuff like that. So we build CRMs for guys. We can manage them if they want. We can use them, and I use them for my employment. So I do not use. So that's how I'm doing my employment.
Right. So we use them for all the partners that want to be a part of the podcast.
Yep.
And all the trade shows we go and the people that come up and
Yep.
say,
Boom, boom, boom. Just loading them in.
Yep.
So we teach guys so a lot of what we talk about is finance, CRMs. Nobody's heard of what a CRM is. So, we understand what they are, but the general public doesn't know. When your wife goes to Target, and my wife, if she goes somewhere and they ask for a phone number, she goes, I'm not getting in your CRM.
I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
You're going to text and email the shit out of me.
Unsubscribe. Unsubscribe.
Yeah. So we use that. We use it both ways, sales and marketing, and to find employees and filter them. So I was running ads. I have like almost 1,000 truck drivers in my CRM in my area. So we had filled our trucks. We'd ordered 4 new ones, and they weren't here yet. So then I had to turn the ad off. Before I turned the ad back on, I just sent a text message out.
To the people that were in your system already.
Yep.
Guess what?
Got it.
Done.
Perfect.
Hey, we had a spot open up. You
Yeah.
want to come in and apply? Boom, 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 boom. That fast.
Yeah.
With a text message. So stuff like that works, and that's what I'm going to do. We were struggling, as Craigslist and Indeed and all these platforms are dying, and I'm not in high school, and I don't have it. I can't, we used to get a lot of high school kids and stuff,
Yep.
so we were really challenged with finding employment. And so I'm like, well, shit, now that how well it worked for the truck trade, and I go, I know exactly how I'm going to do this for the baling. So in about another month or two, I'll make a video ad, and we'll start running it on a 30-mile radius and geo-fencing the colleges.
Nice.
So talk a lot about avatar, your persona, right?
Yep.
Your group. So all of that type of business stuff we talk about, which is important when we're building an ad because we need to know
Who you are.
Yeah.
We were just talking about this morning in a team meeting.
So like our driver ad. When I went, it's not just I'm hiring truck drivers. That ad, the video is positioned to go find guys that are over the road drivers that want to work local.
Yeah.
So I needed to understand the type of driver.
Correct.
Where does he live? What's his pain points? And it's the same for sales and marketing, right?
Yeah.
I just figured you want to drive a badass Peterbilt and
That's over with.
tell all the ladies no.
Shit. I wish. That's what guys say. Well, you got drivers. I go, guys don't give a shit about that anymore. They really don't. That was back in the day. There was a guy up in Washington. He probably has 100 Peterbilts, beautiful long hoods. Okay, he used to get guys to come drive for him for about probably $5 an hour less than anybody. They got to drive a nice long hood Peterbilt. They had to wash it. They had to take care of it. And I'm like, that is so far gone now. I mean, yeah, guys want to drive. There's a few guys that want to drive nice trucks. In my area, it's pay, it's the job.
Yep.
They want to be home. They want to be with their family, and so that's That's what so when we go out to run that ad and you go to market, you need to make sure that you're marketing the right people. The first time that I so if you go to, I don't think it's pinned on my TikTok anymore, but one of the first TikToks I did had 500 and some thousand views. It was a scan of the Peterbilts, and it said hiring truck drivers, and I put our office phone number.
Oh boy.
500. Michelle's like, you have to take that down. We got guys from Florida. None of these guys are guys that we can even hire.
Yeah.
Not qualified candidates.
Not qualified. So the first part of, one of the first parts of sales is disqualifying the leads. And it's the same way when you're hiring someone. You got to disqualify those people. You're just wasting your time.
Yep.
Yeah. So if somebody wants to join the group.
Yeah, 104coaching.com. It's a $97 a month to month, low ticket. They have a private Facebook group. All of our calls, I do a call every Thursday. Missed it. I've only ever missed a couple. I missed one yesterday to get here. Usually I plan my travel around them. I try never to miss them.
Right.
But they're every Thursday, 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. We record them because we know a lot of guys are busy.
Mm-hmm.
We put them in an online program. They can go back and watch them. But like last week, I had a real estate guy in there from Texas talking about real estate trap houses.
Oh.
Random as shit, right? Guys loved it.
Huh.
Great call. So
That's cool.
So I do basically it's like a podcast.
Yep.
But it's a private.
For a private group.
Private group.
That's cool.
It is nice.
That's awesome.
I got a few things I want to rapid fire because I know you're trying to wrap it up.
Yep.
Do you use Bitcoin or cryptocurrency selling overseas?
I haven't yet.
Do you think that you will?
I'm just waiting to see where this whole thing goes.
Because how does the payment come now? Because it's got to go through.
It's all wire transfer
It's
or
just
letter
wire?
of credit. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think the tariffs are going to affect you?
Hopefully not myself because I'm not shipping to China. The last time they did this, it did affect the hay sales to China. But the market, so Korea and Japan, primarily I ship, hasn't ever been an issue with tariffs. Majority of the people that are in this area probably sounds like it's a different world.
Yep.
They're in a different spot than I am.
Yep. And then we should say you were, I think I saw on the bulletin, you were one of the premier sponsors.
I'm
of this?
speaking
You're
at
speaking.
this afternoon, I think.
Okay. Are you going to do more of this stuff?
Like coming out here?
Yeah, to the shows like this?
Yeah, I actually built a booth. I've never used it. It's pretty badass. I had a friend of mine build it. It's a display booth of a back. It looks like a back of a semi-trailer.
Oh, yes.
It's got lights in it and everything. And I'd actually like to do this.
Yeah.
The issue is I don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
maybe we'll have to. Maybe I'll work it. Maybe since you guys go to all of them,
There
we'll
you
talk
go.
about that.
Yeah.
But yeah. I would like to do. I would love to go to more shows and do more of this stuff. So I think this is really great what you guys have done, and I like this environment, being able to do this. Is like we were talking. It was like trying to align our schedules.
Yeah. Yep.
This works. This is such a great idea to be able
Yeah.
to do it at an event.
And it was one of those situations to where we've been talking. We could do it virtually. We didn't. Neither one of us wanted to do that.
No.
So it was, hey, when can I come to Iowa? And
know.
I'm like, I hate that.
Yeah.
We've had guests do it all the time.
Yeah.
And not that I feel bad, but
Yeah.
that's a huge ask for anybody to get on a plane, let alone drive to come be on an interview.
Yeah.
And I saw you on the agenda. I was like, son of a bitch.
Well, I did. I went to see the first time I was here was last year. When I went to Barn Talk, and they were like, "Holy shit, you're gonna fly out here to Cedar Rapids?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it was kind of fun. I'd never been out here, so
Yep.
it's. I'd like to come out during harvest sometime.
Yeah.
that would be
You're
cool.
welcome
see
back
what
anytime
it's
for that. Yeah.
That would be
all
cool.
about.
We'd put you in a tractor, and you'd get to just be like a kid in a candy
I'd
store.
love it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got a bunch. There's actually a bunch of my guys that are in the 10-4 group that are here,
that's awesome.
so they're locals. So we have a lot of guys, from all over. I mean, so that's the other part of it is it's basically really became a community.
Yep.
So a lot of them are doing business together.
Yep.
A lot of business being done in that group. So it's been pretty cool to see.
So 104coaching.com. Is
Coaching.com.
that spelled out?
Yeah, just TEN. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, just spelled out. If you put it in any way, it's going to come up. There's
Okay.
plenty of the old social media and hashtags.
You've
and
done it. Yep.
You can't. It just pops right up.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's great. Well, I appreciate it. I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah, I'm glad we
we
were
got
able
to
to
do it in
connect. Yeah, it's
person.
great.
I'm glad we got to expose our listeners to your story.
Yeah.
That they understand that it's not just handed to you. You got to work for it. And the more that you can understand the business side of anything you want to do, the better you're going to be at it.
Yep.
Business is business.
Exactly.
That's good. Well, appreciate that again. And listeners, we appreciate you. So until next time, have a good one.